Hello everybody! Today we're going to be taking a look at Bachmann's Thomas the Tank Engine locomotive in G scale, along with coaches Annie and Clarabel. This isn't an unboxing, so we're just going to dive right in. For a little history, Thomas the Tank Engine is an iconic blue tank engine who works on the fictional island of Sodor on the Northwestern Railway with his two faithful coaches, Annie and Clarabel. Thomas has a long history of service on the island of Sodor, and lots of friends, many of whom we've met and reviewed here on this channel. There's too much Thomas lore to cover for this review, so we encourage you to do some research if the topic interests you. I will say that Thomas is the star of the show, which is why he wears the number 1. For now, though, let's take a closer look and then take Thomas, Annie, and Clarabel out on the Garden Railroad for a run. Like all the locomotives and rolling stock characters in the Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends universe, Thomas is based on a real-life locomotive. He's based on the London, Brighton, and South Coast Railway E2 class 060 side tank steam locomotive. The E2 was designed for heavy shunting work and short-distance freight hauling. The E2s were built between 1913 and 1916 and withdrawn from service between 1961 and 1963. Annie and Clarabel are based on the London, Brighton, and South Coast Railway Stroudley coaches. The four-wheel Stroudley coaches were built from 1870 to 1890 and were generally withdrawn from service around 1920. Okay, everybody's familiar with Thomas and his iconic look. He's got that nice blue paint job with the red pinstriping around the coal bunker and around the side tanks. And Thomas actually has the extended side tanks that were also installed on the E2 class. The windows are outlined in yellow, a little yellow paint, and you've got a little window feature here in the front. He's got a nice gray deck, which you'll probably see better from the top angle. And then the side of the running platform here is painted in red. He's got a little step up here, which is a nice detail. Slightly arched black roof. And then you'll see it from here, but you'll also see it from the top. He's got these red kind of strapping across the boiler, steam dome, funnel, and the front quarter of the boiler there is painted in black. As we said earlier, he's based off the E2 class, so that is an 060 steam locomotive. So 060 means that there are no leading wheels. There are 6, 3 on each side, drive wheels here, and then no trailing wheels. So 060. Just to give you an idea of how long Thomas is here in G scale, he's about 15 inches from coupler tip to coupler tip. And it's nice that he's got a front coupler there too, so that we can run him, with other locomotives in line, or he can push his rolling stock as well as pull. So it's kind of nice. Oh, and of course the number 1 right here on the water tank on the side, nice yellow paint with some red outlining there. So yeah, really good looking model here. The G scale models are just huge. They look great running on the railroad. And they're just massive. So yeah, let's give Thomas a turn here. Okay, looking at Thomas from the back here, you can see the big hook and loop coupler here. He's got the buffers painted black on the pads there, and then the bumper and the buffer posts are all painted in red. He's got the black utility hook and the airline, and then behind the bunker here, he's got this lamp feature here. That's a non-functional lamp, but it is a nice detail. It's not just painted on there. It's an actual, plastic part that's attached to the back. And you might be able to see it, maybe not, but definitely from the top. He's got the coal in the coal bunker, and then he's got the porthole windows in the back outlined in yellow. And there's a couple of yellow vertical supports there in the windows. And then, of course, you can see the arched roof line there. So yeah, that's the look from the back. Let's continue to turn. Okay, so from this side here, Thomas is pretty identical to the opposite side, so there's not too much to cover here, but you can get a better look here at the linkage here between the 3 drive wheels. It's a little bit lower on this side than the other side. Yeah, so not a ton of new territory here to cover on this side, so let's continue to turn. And of course the money shot here, the front angle here with the face, and you can see here that we got that nice hook and loop coupler up front. We've got again the buffers with the black pads, red painted post and bumper, and the 3 lamp posts here, or lantern posts. So there's a lantern on one of the posts, and then these other 2 posts here are empty, and hypothetically this is fixed in place, but you know, on the real engine you could probably move that lamp to the center position or the left or right position. On Thomas's face here, obviously a very familiar sight to people who enjoy the Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends universe, but these eyes actually traverse back and forth when it's running along the railroad. Here, if we can get this in a little 3/4 angle here, you can see that there's some support features out here and extending in front of the boiler, and there's also this wheel well here that kind of slopes down, kind of integrated into the running platform there. And then you've got from front facing here, you'll see the chimney up front there on the boiler. You might be able to see, you'll see them better on the top, but you might see them in profile, the tank filler caps here. And then you've got those porthole windows back there outlined in yellow, and it's probably obscured from view, but you've got the 2 train whistles there back by the cab and the steam dome. But yeah, maybe if we can turn it just a little bit, we can see those features there, steam dome and the 2 whistles. All right, let's bring it full circle. All right, let's take a look at the top and the bottom. Okay, so these can be a little bit awkward to hold because they're so big, and it's all plastic construction, so I consider them, you know, somewhat delicate. So yeah, so he'll do the best job he can holding it here. But from the top, you'll see here, we'll work from the back to the front. You know, you've got the couplers back there, kind of in a profile. You've got the coal bunker here, just full of coal, and it's got those kind of sparkly kind of sides to them, which, you know, if you've ever had a chunk of coal in your hand, you know that when it's broken up, there always seems to be a side that's kind of shiny, and yeah, so that kind of emulates that pretty nicely. You'll see here the black painted roof, of course, and then as we turn it here, you'll see the whistles, you'll see the strapping over the boiler, and then those 2 side tank elements there, or features there with the water filler caps there. And then if you're looking straight down, you'll see the running platform painted in gray. But yeah, just to give you a look at that, let's take a look at the bottom. Okay, looking from the bottom here, there's no real, realistic modeling detail down here on the bottom. You can just see here, it's just the blue plastic shell up there, you know, the underneath of the running platform. And then you'll see the kind of the mechanical box here that has all the motor housing and so forth. And then you've got the wheels here. The spokes and all that are blue and plastic, but the wheels themselves are metal for that connectivity on the track, and it does give it a little bit of weight. The middle wheel here does not have a flange on it, which is kind of cool. I kind of like that feature on some of these locomotives here. The rear wheel pair and the front wheel pair have the flange on them that obviously keep the locomotive on the track, but the middle wheels are just flat, just there for support, I suppose. Yeah, so that's just a look at the bottom. We've got the Bachmann logoing down here, and we have the part number. All right, so let's give Thomas one final spin. And there you have it, Bachmann's G Scale Thomas the Tank Engine from the Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends universe. Okay, so next up are Thomas's favorite coaches, and these are Bachmann's G Scale, Annie and Clarabel. These coaches are identical, so we'll just give Annie a detailed look and then we'll show Annie and Clarabel together. So let's just dive in here. So as we said earlier, Annie and Clarabel are based on the London, Brighton and South Coast Railway Stroudley coaches. The four-wheel Stroudley coaches were built from 1870 to 1890 and were generally withdrawn from service around 1920. So as you can see here, the primary color with Annie and Clarabel is this nice kind of brown color here. It's almost kind of brown orangey color. There's not a ton of functioning things here on this coach. It's all pretty much just plastic molding here. The roof does come off, and it's only held on with friction. So if you wanted to put benches in there or people, you could certainly do that. It's perfectly accessible by pulling the roof off. Evan, why don't you go ahead and pull the roof off and just show how it's done. So it just pops right off. It's not glued on or anything like that. And the inside of the coach is just empty. So yeah. Okay, so as far as like molded details go, Annie and Clarabel have 4 doors on each side, and there's some little vent work and maybe some windows or some recessed features up here just under the roof line. And we've got some hinges on the doors. I mean, this is all just kind of molded detail, but still they're actually quite nice looking coaches. So the 4 doors, we have some brass painted handholds and door handles on the door, and of course Annie is written on both sides right in the center of the coach. As we mentioned, these are 4-wheel coaches, so single axle, 2 wheels on each side. There's some nice kind of suspension and brake detailing down here at the bottom, all in black, again all plastic construction except for those wheels. Those wheels are metal. They sound really nice on the railroad. We've got couplers, hook and loop couplers at each end. We get red painted buffer posts and black painted buffer pads, and you'll see those when we give it a turn. The roof is kind of a light gray, slightly arched or slightly curved roof, and it's got these little ventilation details right along the top there. All right, let's give it a turn. Yep, so on the back here, again, it's just very smooth, flat plastic here. There's no like wood paneling detail. I assume these coaches were largely made of wood, but there is this bracing here. So there's this kind of framework around the whole outside of this end piece here, and then you've got 4 vertical bracings in the back too. Otherwise, black bumper, hook and loop coupler, utility hook. And that roof with the curved, slightly very shallow arch to it. Let's bring it around. Yeah, so this side is identical to the opposite side here, so there's not a whole lot of new territory here, just to give you a look. It's got plastic windows that you can see through, but again, as you saw when the roof was off, that there's nothing inside the coach. So it's ripe for being customized since it's so easily accessible if people choose to do that. I don't think we will, but definitely if you have hobbyists who are just looking for realism and authenticity, might open up that roof and start filling in the interior of the coach. So it looks easy enough to do because it's like you saw, it's completely hollow in there, completely empty. All right, let's bring it around to the last end here. And there's the end shot here with the face of Annie. This face is just, the nose is kind of molded into the plastic, but the eye features and the mouth and these kind of chin and cheek lines there are all painted on. And then you've got these little side windows here that have kind of the angled top. Again, clear plastic. You can see right into the coach. In case you didn't know, Annie and Clarabel were the first female characters to be introduced in the Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends universe. A little fun fact there. Yeah, so there's Annie's face. Let's bring it around full circle. All right, let's take a look at the top and the bottom. You'll have to hold that roof on. As we demonstrated earlier, that roof is just held on by friction. So yeah, so here's the top of the roof here again, that kind of light gray plastic, smooth finish. There's no details up there except for those roof vents that are along the top. All right, let's take a look at the bottom. Okay, you can see on the bottom here, there's no detail whatsoever to speak of. It's just flat plastic. You've got some, looks like access screws up down here, in case you need to dismantle the, the running platform here from the coach body for whatever reason. You have screws for the couplers. Those are very easy to change out. A lot of the coaches, and I think even the locomotives with the G Scale Bachmann come with coupler adapters so you can change the height. We have a bunch of those from previous. If you saw our video on Emily, her coaches, when we unboxed that, you saw that it came with kind of a little plastic bag with extra couplers and those height adjusters, so that you can do that if it's necessary. It hasn't been necessary for us. We just keep the couplers as they came, and they've been working great. Then along the bottom, again, the metal wheels you can see here, but along the bottom we've got the Bachmann logoing stamped into the plastic, and you've got the part number. So there's a look at the bottom. All right, let's give Annie one final spin. Okay, and Annie and Clarabel are identical coaches, so there's no need to do a detailed look at Clarabel, but because Clarabel is a different coach and has different facial features and so forth, we thought we'd throw Clarabel up on the track here and give Clarabel a spin. All right, there you have it. Bachmann's G Scale Thomas the Tank Engine and his faithful coaches, Annie and Clarabel. Okay, we thought it would be fun if we just lined up all the different scales of our Thomas the Tank Engine models here. Of course, we just took a detailed look at the G Scale Thomas there on the right. That's the HO Scale Thomas in the middle, and then the N Scale Thomas there on the left. Bachmann did a pretty good job at being really consistent with how they produced these models here. If you look at each version, they look very much like each other, like you would expect, but like all the details are all pretty much the same. There's not much variation based, from the different scales. So yeah, good product from Bachmann. So let's go ahead and take our G scale version of Thomas and Annie and Clarabel out on the Garden Railroad for a run.